They say the guilty sleep soundly in prison. It's the innocent who stay awake. Chloe Martinez learned this truth on a bitter February night at Rikers Island, standing outside cell block D, watching a man who shouldn't have been there at all. His name was David Willis. In 3 days, the state of New York would execute him for a murder he swore he didn't commit. Everyone said the same thing. They all claim innocence. But David wasn't like the others. He didn't rage. He didn't plead. He simply existed in that terrible, patient way of someone who'd already made peace with an unjust world. Chloe didn't want to be here. 6 months ago, she was one of the NYPD's rising stars, a detective with a perfect conviction rate and a conscience she wore like armor. Then she refused to doctor evidence for Captain Morrison, and suddenly she found herself reassigned to corrections, buried alive in a place where careers went to die. She thought she'd serve her time and get out. Then David Willis made his request, and everything Chloe thought she knew about justice, loyalty, and the badge she'd sworn to honor came crashing down around her. Chloe's first day at Rikers Island feels like punishment disguised as reassignment. The air inside the maximum security facility is thick with disinfectant and desperation. Nothing like the precinct where she'd spent 8 years building her reputation. Warden Castellanos walks her through the facility with barely concealed contempt. "Detective Martinez," he says, her former title dripping with sarcasm. Or should I say, Officer Martinez now. The demotion still burns. 6 months ago, she had been tracking a major trafficking ring when Captain Morrison ordered her to alter her report, to omit certain names, certain connections that led too high up the food chain. She refused. Within a week, her gold shield was gone, replaced by a corrections officer uniform and a transfer to the one place cops fear most, surrounded by the very people she'd helped put away. The other officers avoid her. They know her story, or at least the version Morrison spread. She couldn't handle the pressure, cracked under the stress, needed a less demanding assignment. It's easier than admitting the truth, that she'd seen corruption and refused to bow to it. Her assignment is cell block D, death row. "Perfect," she mutters, checking her roster. 23 inmates, most of whom have exhausted their appeals. Among the names, one stands out: David Willis, execution scheduled for February 18th, 3 days from now. That evening, during her rounds, she pauses outside his cell. David sits on his bunk, reading a worn paperback, his posture relaxed in a way that seems impossible for a man facing death. He's perhaps 45, with graying temples and kind eyes that don't match the monster described in his case file. Brutal murder of federal prosecutor James Hendricks, convicted on overwhelming forensic evidence. "Officer Martinez," he says without looking up, somehow knowing she's there. "I've been expecting you." His words send ice through her veins. How does he know her name? Why would he be expecting her? David finally looks up, and there's something in his expression. Not hope exactly, but recognition. As if he's been waiting years for precisely this moment, for precisely this person. "I have a favor to ask," he says quietly, "and I think you're the only one who might actually listen." Chloe should walk away. Protocol is clear: minimal interaction with death row inmates, especially 3 days before execution. Instead, she finds herself asking, "What favor?" David sets down his book. She glimpses the title, The Count of Monte Cristo, and moves to the bars. Up close, she notices the deep exhaustion in his features. the weight of someone who's fought too long against an immovable force. "I have a daughter," he begins. "Emma. She was 7 when I was arrested. 10 years ago. They took her into foster care when her mother died 6 months after my conviction. I haven't seen her since." His voice cracks slightly. The first real emotion she's seen. "I need you to find her. I need you to give her a letter. Mr. Willis, there are proper channels. There aren't." His intensity stops her cold. "I've tried everything. My lawyer, my appeals, family services. Everyone says she's somewhere in the system, but no one will tell me where. I've written hundreds of letters that never get answered. I'm going to die without knowing if she's okay, without telling her the truth." Chloe's training screams at her to refuse, to follow procedure, to not get involved. But something in David's desperation resonates with her own situation. Both of them trapped in a system that's supposed to work but doesn't. The truth about what? David glances down the corridor, ensuring they're alone. "I didn't kill James Hendricks. I was framed because I saw who did." He speaks quickly now, urgently. "I was his driver that night. Just a part-time job. I saw 3 men in his office, 2 cops and a man in a suit. They were arguing. When Hendricks threatened to expose their operation, one of them shot him. I ran. They found me 6 hours later, covered the evidence with my fingerprints, built an airtight case." "That's what they all say," Chloe responds, but her conviction wavers. "Emma was with me that night, sleeping in the car," David continues. "She saw them too. 7 years old, and she saw everything." He pulls out a folded piece of paper, pressing it through the bars. "This letter tells her where I hid her drawings from that night. Those drawings are the only proof I have. Please, Officer Martinez, find my daughter. Save her before they realize what she knows." Chloe doesn't touch the letter. She leaves it there, pressed against the bars by David's trembling hand, and walks away. She makes it all the way to the parking lot before the weight of it stops her. "Those drawings are the only proof I have." She sits in her car as snow begins to fall, thinking about another piece of evidence 6 months ago. The trafficking report Morrison wanted altered. She'd believed in the system then, believed that truth would prevail, that doing the right thing would be enough. Instead, she'd learned that sometimes the system protects itself first, truth second. Her phone buzzes. A text from her former partner. "Detective Ray Valdez. Heard Morrison got promoted. Commissioner now. Figured you'd want to know." The news hits like a physical blow. While she's emptying bedpans and counting inmates, the man who demanded she falsify evidence is climbing higher. Is this what integrity gets you? Chloe drives home to her studio apartment in Queens, the letter still unread on her passenger seat. Inside, she pours a glass of wine she doesn't drink and pulls up David Willis's case file on her laptop. It takes 3 tries to access it. Her police credentials keep getting rejected before finally allowing limited access. Someone doesn't want this file easily reviewed. The case seems airtight. David's fingerprints on the murder weapon, gunshot residue on his clothes, his presence at the scene. No alibi. Swift conviction. Yet, as she reads deeper, small inconsistencies emerge. The timeline is too perfect. The evidence too convenient. The investigation led by... She scrolls down. Captain Richard Morrison. Her blood runs cold. She grabs the letter, finally opening it. David's handwriting is surprisingly elegant. "My dearest Emma, I pray this reaches you. What happened that night wasn't your fault. You were just a child. The drawings you made in the car while waiting for me, you thought they were just pictures, but they showed the truth. I hid them where we always hid our treasures, in our special place where we buried the time capsule. Find them. They prove everything. I love you forever. Dad. Chloe reads it 3 times. If Morrison is involved, finding Emma won't just be difficult. It will be dangerous. Everyone who knows where that girl is might be part of the cover-up. She thinks of her badge, her career, everything she's already lost. Then she thinks of a 7-year-old girl watching her father get dragged away for a murder he didn't commit. The choice isn't really a choice at all. At 6 a.m., Chloe stands outside the Department of Child Services in Lower Manhattan, waiting for them to open. She's prepared a cover story, wellness check on a former ward of the state, routine follow-up from corrections. It's thin, but it's something. The clerk, a tired woman named Patricia, who looks like she's processed 10,000 cases too many, barely glances at Chloe's credentials before typing into her computer. Emma Willis, entered foster care July 2010, mother deceased. Patricia's fingers stop. Her expression shifts. I'm sorry, those records are sealed. Sealed? Why would... Court order. Judge Harrigan, Manhattan District. If you want access, you'll need to petition through proper legal channels. Patricia's tone has gone from bored to defensive. She knows something. Chloe leans forward. Look, her father is about to be executed. I just need to know if she's okay, if she received his letters. I said the records are sealed. Patricia's voice rises. I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but this conversation is over. As Chloe leaves, she notices Patricia immediately picking up her phone, speaking urgently to someone. She's being reported, warned off. Why? Back in her car, Chloe pulls up Judge Harrigan's record. 30-year veteran of the Manhattan courts, stern reputation, dozens of high-profile cases. She digs deeper, searching through old news articles, and finds it. Judge Harrigan presided over David Willis' trial. He's the one who sentenced David to death. The same judge who sealed Emma's records is the one who convicted her father. Chloe's next stop is the prison's visitor logs. If Emma visited David, there would be a record. The administrative office takes 40 minutes to pull the files, and when they do, the answer is worse than she expected. 0 visits from Emma Willis. In 10 years, his daughter never came once. Either she didn't want to see him, or someone made sure she couldn't. That evening, Chloe returns to cell block D. David looks up hopefully when she approaches. She should tell him she can't help, that it's too complicated, too dangerous. Instead, she hears herself say, "Tell me everything about the time capsule. Tell me where Emma would look." The gratitude in David's eyes is almost unbearable. "The old playground on Riverside," he says. "There's an oak tree in the northwest corner. We buried it 3 feet down in a metal box. Emma knows. She'll remember." "There's more you need to know," David says. And Chloe can hear the weight of a decade pressing down on each word. About that night. About why they framed me. She pulls up a chair, positioning herself so she can watch both David and the corridor. What she's doing is already grounds for termination. Extended unauthorized conversation with a death row inmate. But she's past caring about the rules that protected Morrison while destroying her career. David explains. James Hendricks wasn't just a federal prosecutor. He was investigating a task force, an elite group of NYPD officers and federal agents who'd been confiscating drugs and money from busts, then reselling them. Millions of dollars, funneled through shell companies. Hendricks had evidence, witnesses ready to testify. He was days away from handing down indictments. "I was nobody," David says. "Just a driver. working 3 jobs to support Emma after her mother got sick. I picked up extra shifts wherever I could. That night, Hendrix's regular driver called in sick, and the agency sent me as replacement. Wrong place, wrong time. He describes waiting in the underground garage, Emma asleep in the back seat with her coloring books. Around 10 p.m., Hendrix came running from the elevator, terrified, saying he'd just refused a bribe, that they'd threatened him. Minutes later, 3 men emerged, 2 in NYPD uniforms, 1 in an expensive suit. The suit did most of the talking, David recalls. He was calm, almost polite, said Hendrix was making a mistake, that he should reconsider. Hendrix said he'd already sent copies of his evidence to the FBI. That's when the taller cop, Morrison, I learned later, pulled his weapon. Morrison. Of course it was Morrison. I started the engine, thought we could run, but they heard it, came straight for us. I told Emma to get down, to close her eyes. She was drawing. She always drew when she was anxious. I drove out of there, ran every red light to the police station. Stupid, right? Running to the police. Chloe's stomach turns. They were waiting for you. Arrested me on site. Hendrix's body was found an hour later. Somehow my fingerprints were on the gun. GSR on my clothes. The narrative was set before I could even speak. Disgruntled driver, demanded money, killed his employer. They separated me from Emma immediately. I never saw her again. The drawings, Chloe prompts. Why would a child's drawings matter? David smiles sadly. Because Emma wasn't just drawing pictures. She was documenting what she saw, adding details, times, even license plate numbers she could see through the garage. She was obsessed with details, my little girl. She didn't know she was creating evidence. She thought she was making art. The Riverside playground looks nothing like David described. What was once a neighborhood gathering place is now a fenced-off construction site, scheduled for demolition. A sign announces, future site of Riverside luxury condominiums. Morrison Development Group. Morrison Development Group. The name makes Chloe's skin crawl. She parks a block away and approaches on foot, wearing civilian clothes, a baseball cap pulled low. It's Sunday morning, and the streets are quiet. The oak tree David mentioned still stands in the northwest corner, ancient and gnarled, marked with orange paint, scheduled to be removed. Chloe scales the chain-link fence easily, drops to the other side. The ground around the tree is hard, half frozen. She brought a collapsible shovel, and now she kneels, beginning to dig. 3 feet down, David said. She's maybe 18 inches deep when her shovel hits something metal. Her heart races as she clears away dirt, revealing a rusted lockbox, exactly as described. The lock is corroded but intact. Chloe uses bolt cutters from her toolkit, and the lock gives way with a sharp crack that sounds impossibly loud in the empty playground. Inside the box, a plastic bag, and inside that, a child's sketchbook. Chloe carefully removes it, brushing away dirt. The pages are surprisingly preserved, protected by multiple layers of plastic. She flips through them, and her breath catches. These aren't just child's drawings. Emma drew everything. 3 men in the garage, 1 in a suit, 2 in police uniforms. She'd captured badge numbers on the uniforms. Chloe can make out Morrison's badge number on one figure. Another page shows a car's license plate, rendered in careful crayon. A third page has times written at the top. 10:07, 10:15, 10:23. A timeline of events. The most damning drawing shows the shooting itself. a stick figure lying on the ground, another figure holding a gun, and in the corner, a child's self-portrait of Emma watching from inside a car, tears drawn as blue streaks down her face. You shouldn't have found that. Chloe spins around. A man in a dark suit stands at the tree line, and he's not alone. Two others flank him, their postures unmistakably law enforcement. "Officer Martinez," the man continues, and his smile is cold. "Or should I say former Officer Martinez? You're trespassing on private property. I'm afraid you'll need to come with us." As they approach, Chloe recognizes him from the sketch. The man in the expensive suit, the one who'd been in the garage that night. She's finally found David's evidence, and now the people who killed Hendricks have found her. Detective Chen, Internal Affairs. The man in the suit flashes a badge, and Chloe's blood runs cold. IA investigating means this goes deeper than she'd imagined. You've been conducting an unauthorized investigation into a closed case. That's grounds for immediate termination and possible prosecution. Chloe clutches the sketchbook tighter. A closed case? An innocent man is about to be executed. David Willis received a fair trial and exhausted all appeals. Chen's voice is rehearsed, clinical. What you're holding is irrelevant. Children's drawings documenting a murder are irrelevant. Chloe takes a step back, calculating her options. 3 against 1, and they're positioned to cut off both exits. These drawings show badge numbers, license plates, timestamps. Emma Willis witnessed. Emma Willis was 7 years old and traumatized. Chen interrupts. No court would accept a child's drawings as evidence, especially not a decade later. You're not helping David Willis. You're destroying what's left of your own career. One of the officers moves closer, reaching for the sketchbook. Chloe makes her decision in an instant. She rips several pages from the book, the ones showing Morrison's badge number and the shooting, and stuffs them inside her jacket. Then she throws the rest of the sketchbook at Chen and runs. She doesn't make it far. The second officer tackles her before she reaches the fence, driving her face first into the frozen ground. Pain explodes across her ribs as he pins her down, cuffing her wrists behind her back with practiced efficiency. "Where are the pages?" Chen demands, standing over her. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Chloe tastes blood, probably bit her tongue in the fall. "I don't know what you're talking about." Chen nods to one of the officers, who begins patting her down. His hand reaches inside her jacket, but before he can retrieve the pages, a voice cuts through the playground. "NYPD, nobody move." Chloe twists her head to see Ray Valdez, her former partner, standing at the fence with his weapon drawn. Behind him, 2 uniformed officers. "Detective Valdez," Chen says smoothly, not appearing surprised. "This doesn't concern you. Officer Martinez is under investigation by Internal Affairs." "Funny," Ray says, climbing over the fence, his gun never wavering. "Because I got an anonymous tip about IA officers conducting illegal surveillance and intimidation. Guess we both got interesting calls this morning." The anonymous tip. Chloe realizes she must have triggered something, some fail-safe David built into his last desperate play. But Ray's presence, while welcome, only delays the inevitable. Chen and his people are connected to Morrison, and Morrison is now the commissioner. This is bigger than any of them realized. Ray uncuffs Chloe in the back of his patrol car while his partners keep Chen and his men occupied with procedure, checking credentials, requesting verification of the IA investigation, buying precious minutes. "You look like hell," Ray says, checking her split lip. Want to tell me why you've got half of IA and probably Morrison himself hunting you? Chloe pulls out the crumpled drawings from inside her jacket. Because David Willis is innocent, and these prove it. Emma Willis drew everything she saw the night Hendricks was murdered. Morrison was there, Ray. He pulled the trigger. Ray studies the drawings, his expression darkening. Jesus Christ, Chloe. Do you understand what you're holding? This isn't just about Willis. Morrison's the commissioner now. He's got the entire department behind him. Which is why we have less than 48 hours. Chloe checks her phone. February 17th, 4:27 p.m. David's execution is scheduled for Friday morning. We need to find Emma Willis. She's the only one who can verify these drawings. Testify to what she saw. Without her, this is just artwork. Child Services has her in protective custody, I'm guessing. Under seal by the judge who convicted her father. Chloe winces as Ray helps her out of the car. Chen and his men are still arguing with the uniformed officers, but it won't last much longer. Morrison has kept her hidden for 10 years. We need to find her before they realize we have the evidence. Ray makes a decision. I've got a contact at Child Services, someone who owes me. But Chloe, once we do this, we're both done. You understand that? Finished. She meets his eyes. I was finished the moment I refused to falsify that evidence 6 months ago. At least this way, it means something. They drive to Ray's apartment in Washington Heights, where he makes 3 phone calls, each more desperate than the last. On the 4th try, his contact, a case supervisor named Marlene, finally answers. Ray, I can't help you, Marlene says immediately. That case is flagged. The moment I access it, alerts go out. A man is going to die for a crime he didn't commit, Ray presses. And a woman who's been hidden for 10 years deserves to know the truth. Please, Marlene, tell me where Emma Willis is. The silence stretches for so long, Chloe thinks she's refused. Then, Serenity House Foster Home, Yonkers, room 214. But Ray, they're watching her. There are plainclothes officers there round the clock. Whatever you're planning, you need to be smart about it. Chloe and Ray exchange glances. Smart went out the window the moment she dug up that time capsule. Now they just need to be fast. Emma Willis is not what Chloe expected. At 17, she's thin and wary, with her father's kind eyes and a lifetime of distrust etched into her posture. When Chloe and Ray arrive at Serenity House at 2 a.m., avoiding the plainclothes surveillance by entering through the service entrance, Emma is awake, reading in the common room like she knew they were coming. You're the cop from Rikers, Emma says, before Chloe can introduce herself. Mrs. Patterson, the director, told me someone was asking about me. She said they shut it down fast. Her voice is older than 17, scarred by too many disappointments. My father sent you, didn't he? Chloe pulls out the drawings, smoothing them on the table between them. He wanted you to have these. He said you'd remember. Emma's hand trembles as she touches the crayon marks, and suddenly she's 7 years old again, crying in the back seat while her father was dragged away. I drew these the night they took him. I was so scared. I didn't know. She looks up, tears streaming. Are these why they kept me locked up all these years? Not in jails, but in protective care where I could never be found? They were afraid you'd remember, Ray says gently. Afraid you'd testify about what you saw. I've always remembered. Emma's voice turns fierce. Every night, the man in the suit, the tall cop who shot Mr. Hendricks, the way my father tried to protect me. I told them. I told the social workers, the foster parents, anyone who'd listen. They said I was traumatized, confused, that I'd made it up to protect my father. She looks at Chloe with a decade of rage burning in her eyes. When is his execution? Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Emma stands. Then we don't have much time. I'll testify. I'll tell everyone what I saw, but we need more than my word and these drawings. We need... The lights cut out. In the darkness, Chloe hears the front door crash open. Heavy footsteps. Shouted orders. Morrison's people. They'd been tracked. Probably from the moment Ray made those phone calls. Back door, Ray hisses, grabbing Emma's arm. Now! They run through the darkened facility, Ray leading with his weapon drawn, Chloe protecting Emma. Behind them, flashlight beams cut through the darkness, voices calling for them to stop, to surrender. They burst into the February night, and Chloe realizes with cold clarity that they're not just fighting to save David Willis anymore. They're fighting to survive until morning, when the truth can finally be heard.